hadn't met before we went out to shoot the spec stuff, but almost instantly it became clear that we were going to be amazing collaborators. We're very well aligned. And so I bring that up to say that it's odd rewatching the full final, because I know which scenes I shot, but it also doesn't, I don't have this like really intense sense of ownership over that. And so anyways, the scene that I think I feel the most connected to is, you know, Monica and Lexi speaking together at the end of episode 4. She's having some trouble in her personal life, and it's kind of this thread throughout the episode. And then, you know, they finally have this moment, and the way that that scene is shot, it's just, it speaks to the relationship that I think that they had with each other and both we had with them, because it's intimate, but it's also distant and respectful, and it's you know, it's a real moment, and I think it's powerful. So but I think Melissa shot that. Right? I don't remember.
I think we both just feel so strongly about her that we're like, feel so connected. Yeah, I don't even remember, but yeah, it's that one really is a top contender too. And along with that, for some reason, I think of like the shot of Lexi when she's on the beach, when she wins at Daytona, and you can just see like how full of emotion she is. And I think that's one that's always stuck with me. Another really fun one was, you know, when Jerry was put on Matt, when we were there for that. And I mean, I think also a lot of the dorm scenes, just like, they just had this intimacy, like, people were just more relaxed there, and I think we really got to know them, especially like the Bad Girls Club. So
yeah, that's a scene I'm really proud of, is Ladarius and Jerry talking about Jerry getting on Matt, and just, I'm proud of the way we were able to get comfortable with them to where they could be vulnerable and be themselves in their, you know, in their private spaces like that.
Yeah, they have a lot of superstitions. And so did you guys, because you were so embedded, essentially, did you follow them? So like you couldn't put a toe in the ocean until they'd won, things like that. Did you follow along with those? Or
did we adhere to the superstition?
Yeah. To help to make sure that they came through?
I mean, you know, it really felt like it had nothing to do with us.
That's so true.
It's their thing, and they were cool with us being curious about it, but I still don't know what Fio SMU stands for, and I never will, and I'm okay with that, you know. And so that was one of those things. And you know, that kind of goes back to the question of things that surprised. You sort of expect that young kids are going to want to share and be public about all these things they think are cool. And this was something that was so important to them. And they did not want us to film it, did not care if we filmed it. In fact, really didn't want us to, because it wasn't for the world and it wasn't for us, it's for them. And I think that was something that I always thought was really sweet and cool. But yeah, they didn't care if we dipped our toes in the water. They just couldn't.
Yeah, that's like, it's so well put. And it was like, it became very clear early on, like where their priorities were. And, you know, winning Daytona was like way more important than, you know, pleasing a camera crew or allowing us into their very like, special like rituals and customs and all these things. Like, they are very superstitious, and they honestly would never compromise that at all, not for anyone. And that was like really, really amazing to see, actually. You know, it sucks when you can't get access to something you think is going to be beautiful or so interesting, but you also have a lot of respect for people when they're like, no, like, this is for us, this isn't for anyone else. So
now Janine on our chat here wants to know, was it difficult to have people you film stay natural when the camera was on them?
No, it really wasn't. And that was another thing I think that I didn't have a lot of expectations around it, but the sport is performative by nature. They're young adults that have grown up on social media, so we maybe expected a little bit of that, and it was by and large totally absent. They got really used to us being there really quickly, and I felt like for the most part, it was something I didn't even really worry about if they were catering their actions to us. Again, to what Melissa just said, their their dedication to their priorities were really clear, and so that actually helped us to create like a more natural filming environment, because as much as they were excited for us to be there and wanted to be accommodating, they also knew always all the time that what they were focused on was like winning Daytona. And so, even in their private moments, it was less about us being there and more about that common goal.
Interesting. Is there, because obviously these people are performative, like you said. So in other situations in your careers, is there some tricks or ideas to getting people used to cameras that you've sort of encountered that could help those getting into the industry that they should know about?
Man, I mean, I think it's just about being sensitive as the way that you enter a space as a camera operator. I don't know, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just time and showing up and spending time with people and showing them you care. I mean, I think, like I said before, this was like a really unique situation with respect to how quickly that foundation of trust happened, was just there. But I mean, I think you just have to know, you have to be there, but you also have to know when to back away, and when when to just put the camera down and be a person and just talk to someone as separate from a camera operator, a camera person. So I would just say that always put people first, and when in doubt, just pause and give people the power to own the situation, really.
Yeah, I think that's true. And just being aware of the fact that even when you have a camera on your shoulder, in front of your face, or on the ground, you're a person in the space too. And just giving people time. And I think if you put yourself in the position of a subject being filmed, think about how that would affect you. It's like day one, you'd feel a certain way. Day two, you'd feel different. By day 35, there's going to be a level of familiarity and trust there. And so, when you go into filming a project, I think just thinking about the long haul of the relationship that you want to build with your subject, and just keeping that in the forefront of your mind, every day you go to shoot.
Well, and that's interesting because someone just asked, Steve wants to know where the line is in terms of representation and showing or choosing what to shoot and what not to shoot, and when to say no, I guess, to a director if something's not, in your opinion, ethically right.
That's a really good question. Sorry, Erin, did you want to go first?
No, you go.
It's a really good question, and like I said, you have to know your own capacities and your own comfort with situations, and you do have to know when to say no, I don't feel comfortable filming this, and you have to be ready to walk away. I didn't experience that on this show, but I have experienced it elsewhere, and you owe it to your subjects to be willing to walk away. Otherwise, you're not doing it for a genuine reason. But I think that, hopefully things never get to that point, in the sense of, there's always hopefully some sort of implicit agreement when you're filming someone. And Erin and I have talked about this, whether it's making eye contact with them, or just being close to them so they know you're filming them. You're not secretly on a Zoom trying to catch something. And I think part of the reason why we chose primes was because you had to get close. You know, if you're on like a 32, you have to get in and be in the situation with people. So they know you're there and they know what you're interested in by where you're pointing the camera. So is, you know, there's no like gotcha moments. But Erin, I don't want to take
Well,
that.
yeah, and I think all that's 100% right. And also just, as I was saying before, being mindful every day you go to film with your subjects about what you want that relationship to look like, and, you know, where your priorities are for being respectful of them. If you are doing that work every day, then your subject should know that they have the power to tell you if they don't feel comfortable with something that's going on, and that and it's okay to remind them of that too. I think, you know, within you know, you don't ever want to like disrupt the natural environment you're shooting in, but if something is sensitive and it's important to you, and as Melissa said, I think that's, you know, that's a very individual question, right? Like that's about communication you have internally, and also hopefully with your director, with your story producers. You know, you have these conversations repeatedly so that everybody's kind of generally on the same page about where your morals are at, and then it takes the pressure off the moment where something comes up and it feels like, is this okay, is this not okay, because you've already had those conversations. You know that your subjects know that they can tell you when they don't feel comfortable, and you also feel comfortable to remind them to do that. And like Melissa said, that wasn't an issue that we had, but I think rather than thinking of it as what do you do in that moment, you just think of it as a larger question for how you approach your whole project.
Yeah.
Hey, so Janice says, can we go back to a lighter topic? And what was the toughest scene to shoot in terms of like setup and capturing?
Like technically?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, our specialty shots and the which that's kind of a made up term that we've adopted as a real
What is
term.
that?
Those are our, I mean, discerning viewers may have noticed that there's a lot of, you know, gimbal and dolly shots, things like, there's an elevated production value to those shots. And that was something that was really important to us from the outset, to capture that footage. And it was something that we talked a lot with the team about, that we would get and when we would get it. And those, I think, were the hardest things to set up, just because all the considerations involved, like story-wise, what's the shot, where does it fit in, what do we actually need, and then how do we do it safely, you know, and because our kids were so accommodating, we always wanted to make sure that we were being extra careful, you know, so that they wouldn't say, no, it's fine, but maybe it wouldn't be fine. And so those were just the conversations. And it wasn't even that was so difficult. It was just a lot of conversations around it.
I mean, it was difficult. I remember like, so I remember before we decided to go with the gimbal that I tried to physically run behind Lexi when she was doing her tumbling pass one time. It was like one of the more embarrassing moments of the shoot, because she is so fast, and a couple of us tried it, and you know, so we did have to like pick out certain parts of the routine that we knew we wanted, such as that tumbling pass that you see in the series, and set it up so that we did it safely, so that you know, everyone really like cleared out except for her, and we just did that pass with a gimbal, so with our gimbal operator. So yeah.
Now, because you mentioned the choosing the primes, did you guys have like a lighting setup there, or what was that like?
We used really minimal lighting. We tried to, you know, stay true to our doc aesthetic as much as we could. Obviously, the interviews are lit. And we had, you know, I mean, I could go into the details of the lighting package. We were using mostly LEDs. I believe we had a sky panel and some Astras and diffusion, and, you know, all the standard goodies there. But as far as like the bulk of the show and our footage would be natural light. Occasionally we would like pre-rig a light in a dorm room, just because, anyone who's lived in a dorm room knows they have horrible lighting.
How do you do that in such a tiny spot?
Rigged to the ceilings,
Yeah.
tucked in corners, little fixtures. We would use like tubes or panels, as smallest ones we could find. But it was cute because then like when we would do that, then the kids would know, and they would like, we would come over and they would already have it turned on. You know, they would be using it for like their studying or whatever.
You're like, this light's great.
Yeah.
There's so much light. Brittany wants to know, and I don't know if you guys would know this or if you're even able to answer this. Is there going to be a season 2, and how do you think COVID will affect the shooting?
I don't think we're allowed to answer that, unfortunately.
Okay.
I wish I could, but I don't think we can.
Not a problem.
Sorry.
Now, when you're like one of the big scenes that everyone sort of talks about is that the last episode, basically the whole last episode's phenomenal. And there's a couple things, like there's the moment where Varsity sort of reveals that they don't care about phones being in the event area. And then there's the whole iPhone situation. So how did you guys work with the students, or work with the tumblers and the cheerleaders to get them up to speed for shooting with iPhones?
I mean, they're already like super proficient shooting with iPhones. It wasn't really a huge conversation apart from us saying, you know, please film as much as your experience on your phone and keep it like horizontal as you can. So there wasn't a ton of coaching that went into that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we, you know, because of that limitation, we really wanted that footage to feel totally different. And so, you know, we were okay with them sort of taking some creative license with the way that they film, because, you know, it was important to us that it was very obvious, like this is their footage, and not even trying to emulate the style. And that was both a stylistic and like narrative choice.
Did you guys watch on the Varsity feed to see if they won, or did you wait until the footage came in?
Yeah, I mean, we were
separate, so
yeah, but we were very tuned in that day. I'll just put it that way.
there was a lot happening that day.
Yeah.
we knew when they won because everyone was texting one another, and when they hit, and there was of course like this like heart-wrenching half hour or however long it took them to come back onto the fan shell. That was just like, oh my god, that was
appreciating.
Yeah, we celebrated like when they won. It was such a relief. We were very invested across the board. The crew was like very invested in them winning and the team. So
wow. Now I have one last question that I like to ask everyone I interview, and that's, what's your favorite guilty pleasure film to watch?
I have a soft spot for rom-coms, anything Nora Ephron. I love all of her films. And I mean, can I say Bring It On?
Yeah, that's a good one. That whole series.
Yeah, I agree. Bring It On. Yeah, maybe I'm kind of like boring in my viewing. I don't have necessarily a guilty pleasure, but I would recommend everyone watch Pose if you haven't watched it.
Oh, what's that about?
You'll have to find out.
Okay. It's a cold watch. I'll just jump right in. Well, thank you so much for letting us chat with you and letting everyone ask their questions. And I hope you guys have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Having us. So fun.
All right. This is Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U.